Hi, Naketa.
Hello. I'm excited to be
Me too. I'm so excited to have you with us today.
here. This is awesome. I'm excited. Thank you for welcoming me and honoring me with your time.
Oh, absolutely. Are you kidding me? Let me tell you something. So, you and I met through a neutral business associate of ours who we had a new relationship or fairly new relationship with. And
Hmm.
from the time you and I met, we just mesh. Some people
Yes, we did.
click, some people don't click, and some people mesh really well. You and I mesh very well. And it's like every single time we talk, we go on a rampage on one topic, and that leads into another topic. Like, oh, girl, let me tell you about this. And we talk like we've known each other forever. But
Yeah.
what's fantastic about you, Naketa, in my opinion, is your characteristic and your personality is so perfect and fitting for what you do for a living. So I
Period.
want you, because you specialize, you're the number one in the
Yeah.
world relationship advisor. And the
Hmm.
way you operate, you're also a podcast host too.
Hmm.
And I want us to go into that, take a dive into that. But the way you help people perfect their relationship is not just in their personal life or not just in their career, but in every way. In
So
every
true.
way. Because we have so many relationships. Some of us are mothers or parents. Some of
Hmm.
us are spouses. Some of us
Hmm.
are bosses. Some of us are entrepreneurs and bosses. Some of
Yeah.
us are one-man show entrepreneurs. Some of us are small business owners, and some of us have big companies and responsibilities. Some of us are friends. Some of us are sons, daughters. It's tons of
Lovers.
titles that we carry and stuff.
Yeah.
And if you don't have a good sense of who you are, your self-worth, you will drop the ball in some area because it's difficult to juggle all of these titles that we have.
Yeah.
So
All of these hats.
yeah, exactly. So I want you to share with us about your podcast, but first let's hear about you and what it is you
Yeah. I love to tell people I'm a stripper. No. And it's partially true because I'm stripping you down to the most naked parts of yourself, right?
yeah.
In terms of working the pole, that's really the balance of the life and business that I'm helping people negotiate with because them girls are strong.
Yes,
Okay. For
they
anyone
are.
who's judging,
I
right?
tried it and I don't have that upper body strength.
I am with you. That is not where my zone of genius lies. But the flexibility, the freedom that they got when they work in that pole, and the strength that it takes to be able to stand up there and not harm themselves or other people around them is essentially, as I'm relating myself to a stripper, is essentially what I'm doing with people when I'm working with them. So, yeah, go ahead.
You know what? You have a very valid point there because when you think about it, being on that pole like that, because now it's not only about being a stripper,
Hmm.
it's become a sport to
Yeah.
actually do
Yes.
acrobatics, as they call it, on those
Hmm.
poles. So it's become a
Absolutely.
competition. It's a sporty activity. It's
Hmm.
not all about the nightclub and throwing dollar
Hmm.
bills at it anymore. But
Hmm.
in order to do that, they have to have a very strong core.
Yes.
And it's kind of fitting that you look at yourself that way from a professional perspective because you are focusing on the core of issues that people need to deal in order to balance everything. That's a good scenario.
Yeah, I know my husband is like, no, she didn't. She just go on. She did. She did say that. Like, keep some things private, babe. Some things private. No. But absolutely. Like, I feel like everything is perspective, right? Like, just
Yeah.
sticking with the stripper analogy, being cheeky and being silly about it. The reality is, if we put some glittery outfits on those ladies and painted their face with some stripes, gave it a high ticket price. We call it Circus de Soleil, then
Yes.
everybody and their mama want to come see it.
Yeah,
right? But
that's right.
technically, they're doing that and then some with scanty, glitter. I can't even use the word glittery, colorful outfits.
Uh-huh.
Some higher, some stronger, but many of them are using the same skills. They just transition them to a brand that is received
Right.
better from others,
Yes.
which is also essentially what I do. So a lot of the women and men, I call them ambitious women in business and a few brave men that I've worked with for the
I
last 9
love
years.
that.
Thank you. What I've done over the years, and they've had executive hats, C-suite, VPs, directors, all of that.
Uh-huh.
Some were straight entrepreneurs. Some were what I call careerpreneurs. That they use that analytical, creative mind in both walks, and were proud of it. Like, yes, I'm an accountant and I'm a business consultant, right? Or yes, I'm a VP of marketing and sales for this global Fortune 500 company, and I have a growing business of, coaching or consulting or services or a shoe company, right? Like whatever it is, they just often usually come to me because they're struggling with leading their new teams, because now they're trying to balance, switching those hats, without losing themselves in the process.
Right.
And also maintaining what matters to them most, their whole success being their first ministry in their family, which is usually a challenge for many people, especially for ambitious women. We feel like we have to choose, do I show up for my family and my husband and my dog and the cat, whatever the case is, and give them everything and quelch my ambition in the process, because giving them all means I have nothing left for me, let alone the dream that I've been wanting to continue to nurture or just birth out, depending on where you are in life. Or do I say, screw that, I'm gonna focus all on this business, we're gonna hit $10 million, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that. And meanwhile we're in divorce, or we're roommates. There's no passion, there's no love, there's no excitement. If it is sex, it feels like a chore, like all of those things. And they don't want that anymore. I don't typically work with newbie entrepreneurs or newbie leaders because I'm very mindful not to compare people to children, but because I'm a mama and a grandmother at this stage in my life, it's
God, don't say that out loud, because you do not look it. Oh my goodness. You're gorgeous.
Thank you. I'm a G bunny. I am a G bunny. I'm so excited. My grandbabies are pure joy and 8 pounds of magic apiece. They're just blessings. But because, they're top of mind with everything, I look at it as, newbie entrepreneurs and newbie leaders that are at the early stage of their career. They have that wishful, magical thinking that teenagers do. Even though you just pointed out the pothole in front of them and said, be careful, don't ride over that, they feel like they are the exception. Well, if I go a certain speed, I can jump it, I can hit it, I can do it. And then they hit it, the tire falls off, things go crazy.
Ouch.
And right. And they're like, I don't know what happened. I told you not to do it. But because they haven't experienced that kind of hurt, injury, failure, flaw yet, they think they're exempt from it. And typically the men and women that I've worked with over the years have lived life. They have lived life. They have failed. They have skinned their knees already. They are like, look, I saw that pothole. I remember that pothole feeling. I'm going to be mindful to slow down, speed up, turn around, go another way, and take the guidance of someone who's already past that stage. Because that's important for what we do, right? Like, you do opulent events and you do it with excellence. You do this so much, you're already aware of when people are trying to be manipulative with their vending prices and negotiating. So if someone is new to an event and they're asking you, Gracie, can you give me some help? I don't want people to get over on me. I don't want them to see me come in, see me as a new person and try to chew me up and spit me out. If they ask you those things and then you say, well, ask for this particular pricing, ask for wholesale, all the expert details, and they're like, oh, I don't have to do that. Well, you just paid me and asked me for my advice, but then, like a teenager, you went ahead and said, I'm glad she told me all that, but that, that's not going to happen to me.
Yes.
And then it happens.
You are so right on point with that, because I have people that come to me for mentorship and they have that same mindset. And I've come to the conclusion as of recent that from now on, if I accept the responsibility to mentor anyone, especially in my industry, because that's what
Yeah.
I know best.
Yeah.
I'm going to say to them, you have to be willing to listen to what I say to you. If not, this is not going to work out, because it's a waste of my time. It's a slap in my face. And like you, I understand exactly where you're coming from by not wanting to target newbies, because they don't listen. And they do need to go through the life experiences in order, and hopefully, because not everybody learn from mistakes. You know, you got people that are smart enough to not only learn from their own mistakes, but other people's mistakes. And there are the majority of the people out there, especially in the newbie field of being a business owner, they know it all, or they, like you said, feel as though this doesn't apply to me. It won't happen to me because I can, you know, manipulate it and go like this and take that leap. And it's not true. So it is a waste of your time, and it holds you back from your progress. And not for nothing, there's no shame to that, because there are people who target new beginners.
Exactly.
So why don't you throw yourself in that category too?
I say it all the time, I'm not here for everybody, right?
Yeah.
Like, someone who serves everybody serves no one. And you know, when I started, because I'm a psychotherapist, trauma specialist, licensed clinical social worker by background, like all of those things, sex therapist, like that's where all of it started. And I'm still maintaining those licenses. I just don't show up in my work that way. I just, you know, use all those gifts from those clinical tools to help people break down in a safe way.
Naketa, I don't know, because you have a very powerful background, and because of all of those background experiences and your credentials that you have to support it, it allows you, it forms you to who you are and where you at today. So that's why when you and I are talking, you have the tendency to give me a different perspective, whether I agree to it or not. You give me an opportunity to see something from a different perspective that I did not consider. And it opens my mind up to saying, I didn't think about that. I still stand strong with where I position myself, how I feel, but at least now I understand. And sometimes it's the other way. You change my mind completely about something. And stuff. But you do have a way of getting people to hear what it is that needs to be heard, and that's because of your background. You got to give credit to where it's due.
I agree, and I still, like, my clinical tools are part of my superpower for sure. And then I emerge them with the coaching strategies and the breakthrough success coaching that I have created. All that together creates this proprietary synergistic stripper pole like blend that, you know, that's only good for certain people, right? Like, that's only going to be the best. And part of that is me knowing it's okay to say, you're at a beginning level, no shame. I was there too. I'm excited. Here are some tools for you to use, but let me refer you to someone who works with newbies all the time.
Absolutely.
My best self is working with people who have experience. I love working with my married women entrepreneurs.
Oh, awesome.
Like, those are my sweet spots. I relate to them personally, but also professionally, because when you think about it, we as married women, and this is no shade to anyone who is post-marriage, divorced, has learned some lessons, who is not in that space or has not walked that walk at this point and maybe not want to, that's okay.
Right.
When I'm serving a woman, I'm serving her holistically, but I have to say, my special room in my house is for my married women entrepreneurs, right? Like, in my heart, those are my married women, and partially because they deal with a complexity and a layer of shame and guilt that keeps them from being as big and bodacious as they should be. And it's usually because, depending on how you were raised and all those other factors in your narrative, you're constantly wanting to make sure that other people are held up.
Wow.
And you might be single and think like that too, right?
That's right.
But when you are married, you now feel obligated on a 24/7 perspective to, you know, it's one thing, like, when I go with my girls, I want to lift her up, right? When I go out to my family's house, I want to make sure when I show up at work tomorrow from 9 to 5, I want to show up. When you're married, that's 24/7. So you're constantly grappling with the, how do I support, lift, nurture, be who I'm supposed to be in this marriage as a help meet help meeting him where he is, as my partner, as my soulmate, as my love, and not lose myself and quell my ambition and silence myself. Because I know with my business, which is a huge part of what I do with these married women entrepreneurs, I help them have happy marriages and grow those 6 and 7 figure businesses. And I love it, right? Like, because it's so many complexities. So I'm like, we talked about whoreism in another podcast episode, and I am a research whore, but I'm also a problem-solving whore. I'm like whore stripping. I'm doing all kinds of things.
Wow.
And for a Christian minister, right? Okay. No.
I'll be honest with you though. That's very helpful because you don't know how much you've helped me. Funny enough, we had this interview scheduled before. And you and I both did interviews in the same day with one another, because of your podcast and what we're doing here to shine light on experts like yourself. And we got so wrapped up into just chit chat that our time bypassed us for both of our time slots to interview each other. And in that time frame, you were respectful enough to see that this was more important, that it was needed for me.
Yeah.
And you helped me out in various areas for various things, including giving me and my team some tips about how to draw more attention to our blogs and LinkedIn. And girlfriend, let me tell you, I took your advice.
Ooh.
And it worked like magic. It worked like magic. You are such a problem solver, 100%. I have to apologize for the little teams. I forgot to log out of my CRM system. So at this point, it is what it is.
That's that boss life.
At least they're reading the emails.
Right. It's working. It's working.
It's working. This is coming in. Hopefully.
Exactly.
But you are a problem solver at heart, because no matter what I'm talking about, no matter what we're discussing on a friendly level, professional level, you're like, oh, have you considered? And you don't take an aggressive approach either. You just go, hey, have you thought about doing this? Have you ever tried this? Let me tell you about it. And I'm like, okay. And, it's up to the person to give it a shot. So you're definitely talking from great experience and great wisdom. But that brings us to the next thing, the podcast.
Oh, yes, my first baby, outside of the business itself. So I started this company 9 years ago in 2011. And I was coming from being a helper, right? Like a clinician, a therapist, you're not taught about networking. You're not taught about traditional business relationship building, because people meet you and they're referred in, however they got to you. So you don't have to go look or market or do any of those things. And I was struggling, quite honestly, with how do I share, because I'm an overgiver and I love it. It's part of my gift. And I wanted to be able to do it strategically. To be able to respect this new level that I was now entering into as a newbie entrepreneur at that point in my career. Right. How do I share, but still, be mindful of my time, mindful of other people that I'm inviting in and I'm asking for their time? How do I do that? And podcasting seemed to be, it was super early. It was 2012 when I actually entered it in, about a year after I started the company. Right. It was super, super new. And I struggled with the semantics of, is it going to be radio? Is it going to be podcast? Will people respect it if I say podcast versus radio? All the things. So I had mindset stuff to get through. And what I first decided to do before we evolved to where we are now with Balance Boldly for Ambitious Women in Business, it started with a balance beam. That was the original name of the podcast. Wow. And Balance Beam was really me trying to get some support with my journey by inviting experts like yourself and say, tell me all the, the 5 great ways to create an event, right? Like it was very businessy. And that wasn't the original intention. I wanted to honor you. And I realized that people would say yes to talk about their business more than about their personal life, right? So there was some learning that I had to do there. But you would come on and you would say, oh, absolutely. Here's 5 ways to create a phenomenal virtual event or phenomenal conference or whatever it is. And from that, I said, oh, okay, good. Because when I create my next workshop, I can do this, right? Like,
right.
So in its own way, these women and men that I would invite in were giving me so many nuggets. They were enlightening me to things, and they were actually, without them knowing, coaching me on the problems that I was experiencing. Even though this gift was really for the listeners, I was learning as much as I was giving. And I realized the reciprocity in that was almost igniting. Like it was orgasmic. Like I love reciprocity. Like I want to do more of this. I want to give and receive, and not just give, because I came from a space of just giving. That was part of my narrative, my story, my drama, right? And being on the side of receiving and being open to it felt so amazing.
Wow.
And I said, I need to do more of this. So we, played with, do we want to do video? Do we, I had to learn the tech. Like I was learning all of it from scratch. So I needed coaches who were patient enough and skilled to say, try this, not that, don't, and for me to listen, which I'm a student for life. So listening was not the problem. Over listening, because they were like, I gave you the framework. I didn't say use it as an A to Z, Naketa. Like it's okay to be flexible. Because I'm a nerd underneath everything. So I took some things too concretely.
Because I'll sit there and say, well, wait a minute. When we talked on the 22nd, you said this and then this, not this and then that.
Exactly. And they're like, I was just laying out the major points. I didn't say you had to do it. But I'm like very, very specific, especially when I respect the person who is giving me the information. And I respected all of these men and women that I was inviting. And then I learned over time, as I got better with asking questions that allowed them to feel comfortable to share what I really wanted, as I wanted to get to the relationship. Like, let's get to like what makes you able to be so dope every day. Because if you don't have good stuff happening at home, you are probably not, even though your 70% probably looks like someone else's 100, you know that it's only 70. And that's what I really wanted to get to when it came to like, how are you balancing, right? Like my balance wasn't about, do you switch hats equally every day? My balance was really, how are you, to me, or at least from your online pictures and your website, you look like you are living your best life. So I wanted to know, how are you living this truth and still making space for yourself? That's what balance is, right? Like, how are you doing that? And that's really the integrity of what the podcast evolved into, which is why I got to invite great people like yourself to show up and give it to me straight and have fun doing it.
I know. And you know what? Because life is too short to be wrapped up into your feelings. Life is too short to be ugly and behave inappropriately. We can make things a lot easier for ourselves by just doing the right thing. Exactly. It takes a lot of effort to do the wrong thing, to manipulate, to lie and steal and rob and all that stuff. Why don't you just take the easy, short path and do the right thing for yourself and to others? In fact, you have a topic that I am loving so much that I had the honors to be a part of in the interview process, not so much the interview process with your podcast. And you're focusing on a theme that's called Fully Living the Life You Teach. And I was like, ooh, make sure you schedule me in time for that before it ends and switches, because I am a firm believer in walking your talk.
Yes, ma'am.
Don't say this and that and I'm seeing something different, because I'm an observationist at heart. I will watch everything that you say you would do. In fact, I actually do the same thing with my clients, especially when it comes down to nonprofits. You're saying that this is your core values, but yet your actions are saying something different. If I'm going to get involved as the expert to help you out for your needs, I'm going to hold you accountable to that.
That's right.
Because it needs to tie into your events. And if you want money from people, you want support from people, you want people to follow your brand, to like your brand, then you need to be true to yourself. And if that's not your intent, if you can't follow your own core values, then guess what? You need to change them.
Absolutely, 1,000%. My number one principle is to give, and grow. I had with time, and I use it in business and I use it in my life, like as my guiding principle. And that principle allows me to fully live the life that I teach, right? Like I am a giver. I don't want, and I know that that's hard and you got to be careful when you're a woman because people can, manipulate that and take from you there. But it was really important for me to be able to show up in and out of business as someone who gives with my energy, gives with my resources, and grows in my gratitude. That's what that 3G mindset really means to me. But I'm not given to go broke. Like,
Right.
I had to learn, and I did at one point, right? Just not understanding the professional boundary of that and how to still walk in integrity. And
Right.
all of those things allow me to live fully when I can speak with love and be gentle and honest about my boundary and still feel like we can continue to work or we can continue to separate this work, like we were talking earlier in a previous conversation about firing clients, right? Like,
Yes.
With love, I say you did
With
not honor
love.
this contract. Let's have a conversation about how to do it differently. If you don't feel like you can, then we no longer need to work together.
Let
In
me,
love,
yes.
I'm not mad.
Yes, yes, because it's only going to you're diffusing the situation. Instead of letting it escalate, you're diffusing it. And it's to the best interest, believe it or not, getting fired. People got to learn how to handle rejection. Getting fired as a client is to the best interest of not just you as the business and the professional, but also to the best interest of that client. They have the opportunity to now go somewhere else where their personalities clash a little bit better with someone else that can hopefully still offer them the excellent services that they're getting from the original source. So I agree. Well, we're almost at the end of our time. So I cannot let you leave without a fun fact question.
Okay.
And you kind of took the idea of what question I was going to ask you in my interview just recently. So how am I going to put a twist to this? I know that you have an amazing relationship with your husband. And you guys are more than just companions. You have a friendship, a bond there with each other. So I'm going to have two questions for you because you are all about family. One, what's your fun thing to do with you and your husband?
Oh, when I am not pretending to watch the basketball, football, whatever game he's watching, because I'll sit in the room with my headphones on listening to an audiobook like, good job, while he's yelling at the screen. So if I'm not pretending to do that, and he knows I'm pretending, like, well, at least she in the room.
Right.
I think what's fun for us is when we're talking, honestly, and not about business, not about bills, because he's a co-owner of the company, but he doesn't work in the company.
Right.
He's one of our shareholders, so he collects those dividends. But when we're not talking about that stuff, like the things that can get complicated and heavy, I love just talking trash with him. Like we tease each other all the time. My favorite thing, it's a horrible thing. He's probably going to be like, I can't believe you said again something interesting on video. If he is being a jerk, that's my nice way of saying that. Instead of cursing, because I am a minister and I try to watch my language as much as humanly possible, I'll be like, because that actually stands for asshole. So like if I walk in the room and I'm like, he's like, what did I do? And then we can laugh about it because it's like some silly little thing. So we tease each other. We're a super sarcastic, silly family. We throw water on each other. Like we're very playful, very silly. But I would say that outside of making love and doing all those other juicy good things, that's probably my favorite.
So here's the second part of my question. What's the favorite part about being a grandmother with your grandbabies?
Wow, that is hard. My grandbabies are 2.5 and 1.5, so I'm getting all the super fun, and they don't live with me, so I don't have to deal with the midnight hour situations. They are my sons, my eldest child, his children. I think the best thing of being a grandparent, especially if I compare it to being a parent, right? Because it was all the hard stuff and the responsibility, is I just get to love on them and kiss them and we do Marco Polos where I remind them of how brilliant they are and that they can do and be and have anything that they want. And they give me kisses back in the screen because now during COVID, obviously I have to keep them safe. I think it's just being able to love on them, honestly, without all the responsibility, right? Like we can send the gifts, Pampers, pull-ups, whatever.
Pack them up and send them back.
Yeah, no 3 a.m., no tantrums, because they give a tantrum and, the kids act differently with you when they're not yours.
That's
so they, you give them a look and they're like, and I'm like, oh, yes, baby, that's right. Your parents raising you right. I did something right, It's just, they're fun. Like they make you tap into the innocence of curiosity and adventure.
Right.
And I miss that.
That is awesome. I gotta admit that some of the things that you shared today prompt me to nice little topics for having you back again. I want to take every opportunity we can to let your light shine for the efforts that we're making through my company. By any far, I am not a podcast host, but doing these interviews is to the benefit of the business community, and this is our way of giving back by sharing your story with our network. And that's what we want to do through our subscribers and network and our community. But I feel as though having you come back to talk about other things that do tie into what you do professionally. So if you would accept that, I would love to have you come back and talk a little bit more about the marriage life for people.
Yes, 1,000%. I would love to show up for your listeners. And any way that I can support you, we have said on and off camera.
Yes, you have. And like I said, people, here's a good segue into that next interview. It's a myth that you can't have a happy home and a happy workspace. All you have to do is know how to balance it. And I think you're the person to educate us all on that. Have you ever heard of that in the past? People say, if things are great in my love life or at home, then it fails at work. If it's great at work, it fails at home. That's not true. It's just that people haven't found the balance. So we're going to talk about that the next time. Is that our theme?
That is perfect. It's right in alignment with everything that I train on and I teach on, and I'm happy to do it because one, to keep families stronger, we have to take that out from the root. The same way there's not your happy wife, happy life. Your husband need to be happy too.
There you go. Right? I agree.
So that's a whole that's a third episode.
Don't go anywhere. Sit tight, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Take care and thank you so much for your time. Talk to you soon. Bye.
Thank you, Gracie.